I am married, I have been for quite some time. Long enough for routine to replace excitement, and inside jokes to replace flirting. We built a life that looked solid from the outside, joint accounts, a shared bed, shared plans for the future, which we always said we would get to someday. We don't have children yet. We agreed to wait. Or at least, I thought we agreed. However, lately, life with my wife has been like walking through a room full of invisible traps. She is constantly angry. Not loudly, not explosively, sharply. Maliciously, but precisely, as if she knows exactly where to strike. Everything I do annoys her. If I ask a question, she sighs. If I don't ask, she accuses me of indifference. I don't load the dishwasher correctly. I breathe too loudly when I'm tired. I exist incorrectly. What confuses me is that 5 minutes later she acts normal. Almost sweet. As if nothing happened. As if I made it all up. The lies started around the same time. Or maybe I just started noticing them. Small lies. Lies that can be forgotten. The kind that are usually ignored because they're not worth arguing about. I was stuck at work. My phone died. I already told you that. Only she didn't say that. I was sure of it. Every time I asked her, she turned the conversation around on me, saying that I wasn't listening, that I was worrying too much, that I was becoming paranoid and exhausting her. I began to doubt my own memory. Her phone became a problem even before I wanted to admit it. It used to lie on the coffee table, its screen lighting up when someone sent a text message. Now it never left her hands. The screen was always facing down. She took it with her to the bathroom. The music in the shower suddenly became so loud that it drowned out any notification sounds. When I joked about it one evening, she snapped back that she had a right to privacy and that I didn't own her. That word, own, hurt me. I wasn't trying to own her. I was trying to understand her. Then there were changes in her schedule. Late workouts. Drinks that appeared at the last minute. Errands that took hours and came back empty-handed. She started dressing better for everyday activities. Jeans were replaced by tighter-fitting clothes. Makeup in the evenings when she said she would be home early. Our sex life didn't disappear, which somehow made the situation worse. It seemed mechanical. Distracting. As if she were somewhere far away. Sometimes she would pull away and say she was tired. Sometimes she would start out of nowhere, almost aggressively, as if trying to prove something, to me or to herself. One evening we were sitting on the couch in silence, the TV was on, but neither of us was watching. Her phone vibrated. She looked at it and smiled. Not a polite smile. A real one. Soft. Familiar. Then she noticed me looking. The smile disappeared. She locked her phone and put it down as if nothing had happened. I asked who it was. She said, no one. Work, without looking at me. Something fell in my chest. Heavy. Instinctive. As if my body understood the truth before my brain was ready to accept it. Later that night, she started arguing over something trivial, accusing me of being indifferent, of not making an effort anymore. Then she turned over and fell asleep without saying goodnight. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, reviewing the last few months like footage from a surveillance camera. For the first time since I married her, I thought about something I had always considered impossible. What if she was cheating on me? After that, I hardly slept. And when that thought came to me, it didn't seem paranoid. It seemed like a door I had been avoiding opening. That night, everything changed. I just didn't know how quickly it would all unfold. The next few days seemed endless, as if time was deliberately slowing down to play with me. I started noticing everything. Not in the dramatic style of a detective with a clipboard, but rather as if my brain had stopped turning off. Every word she said sounded different when I stopped giving her the benefit of the doubt. On Monday morning, she said she would be working late. She said it casually, brushing her teeth, her mouth full of foam. No eye contact. This was new. Before, she had explained too much. Now she explained almost nothing. That night, she came home at almost 10. When she walked in, she smelled different. Not perfume, something sharper, unfamiliar. I asked if she had eaten. She snapped that she wasn't hungry and accused me of interrogating her. I apologized, not knowing why. She accepted it as if it were her right. After that, the lies began to accumulate more quickly. On Tuesday, she claimed she had a team dinner. On Wednesday, it was a project that had to be done at the last minute. On Thursday, she said her phone had died again, which was strange considering that it somehow continued to work for navigation and music in her car. Each explanation seemed rehearsed. Delivered quickly, defensively, as if she were challenging me. I didn't take it. Not yet. What bothered me most was how she became angry when I tried to act normal. I asked how her day was going, and she said I was too nosy. I suggested we make dinner together. She rolled her eyes and said she didn't have the energy to babysit me. When I fell silent, she accused me of sulking. I couldn't win. And she knew it. On Friday night, a small but stupid incident happened that changed my thinking. She was in the shower. Her phone was on the kitchen table, vibrating. I wasn't trying to peek. I swear, it's true. I was just getting a glass of water when it lit up. A name appeared on the screen. Just a name. I didn't recognize it. Then another message came. And another. I didn't read them. I didn't touch the phone. I just stood there looking at it as if it were about to explode. When she came out of the bathroom and saw me standing at the counter, she froze. Her gaze immediately fell on the phone. "What are you doing?" she asked, instantly becoming sharp. "Getting water," I replied. She grabbed the phone, unlocked it, and scrolled through it as if looking for something, then looked at me as if I had already been convicted of a crime. "You have to stop acting so weird lately," she said. "It's unattractive." That word again. This time as a weapon. I asked who had texted her. In a calm voice. With neutral words. She laughed. She actually laughed. She said it was a colleague and asked if I wanted to check her email now. She said I was acting insecure. She said maybe I should worry about myself instead of controlling her. Then she left. I stood there feeling stupid, angry, confused, all at once. But underneath it all was something colder. Confidence. That night, she went to bed early. She said she had a headache. I couldn't sleep, my heart was pounding. I stared at the dark living room, remembering her reaction. The speed. The aggression. The way she instantly turned it all on me. Then I realized something. She wasn't afraid of being exposed. She was annoyed that I was getting closer. And that's when I stopped wondering if something was going on and started thinking about how much I really wanted to know. Because when you feel that change, when trust cracks, you can't pretend anymore. You either deliberately look away. Or you start paying attention. I didn't become a full-fledged detective overnight. I didn't install trackers, hire anyone, or do anything dramatic. What I did was simpler, and somehow worse. I stopped trusting her words. Every sentence she uttered after that Friday was accompanied by a silent asterisk. Every excuse seemed like a performance I had seen too many times before. On Saturday morning, she woke up in a wonderful mood. Too wonderful. She hummed while making coffee, talked about a place she wanted to try for brunch, touched my hand as if everything was fine between us. As if nothing had happened last week. As if she hadn't called me unattractive 48 hours ago. It shocked me. During brunch, she was constantly on her phone. She was writing messages under the table. She was tilting the screen. She was smiling as she looked at it, and then she would look up at me, as if challenging me to say something. When I asked what was so interesting, she replied that she was just scrolling through pages and accused me of stalking her again. I let it go. But I lost my appetite. That same evening, she said she was meeting a friend. She didn't say who. She just grabbed her purse and left. I noticed that she had changed her clothes first, into something nicer, more form-fitting. I told myself not to read anything into it. I failed. She was gone for 4 hours. When she came back, she was glowing. Not drunk, not tired, full of energy. Happier than I had seen her in months. She threw down her keys and started talking about traffic jams, about how her friend was going through a difficult time, about how exhausting it all was. The story didn't add up. The details were vague. The timeline didn't match. When I asked additional questions, she snapped that she wasn't obligated to tell me every detail of her life. That night, she initiated sex again. Quick. Intense. Almost urgent. I agreed, but I felt that it was wrong. It was as if I was borrowing intimacy that no longer belonged to me. After that, she was distant, quickly turning away, already holding her phone in her hand. I lay there, staring at the wall, feeling empty. Sunday was calmer. Too calm. She hardly spoke to me unless she had to. And when she did speak, it was briefly and irritably. At one point, she asked if something was wrong with me. I almost laughed. By Sunday evening, I was exhausted. Not physically, but mentally. Constant doubts, emotional swings, the way she dumped all her worries on me. I felt like I was losing touch with reality. Then something happened that pushed me from "this is wrong" to "this is real." She left her laptop open. She never did that. Never. It was always locked, always closed. But she went to take a shower and forgot it on the couch. The screen was on. I didn't rush to approach it. I stood there for a long time, arguing with myself. I told myself that this was a line I couldn't cross. That once I looked, there would be no turning back. But the truth was that I had already crossed it in my head. I sat down. At first, nothing obvious. Email. Work tabs. Calendar. Then a messenger appeared, one I didn't recognize right away. A preview of the message. Just one line. Last night was crazy. I can't stop thinking about you. My hands were cold. I didn't dig deeper. I didn't scroll. I just stared at that sentence, and my heart was beating so hard I could hear it in my ears. It wasn't vague. It wasn't friendly. It wasn't work-related. It was real. I closed my laptop when the shower turned off. When I stood up, my legs buckled. A moment later, she came out, wrapped in a towel, smiling at me as if nothing had happened. I smiled back. Something inside me had already broken. I didn't blame her. Not that night. I needed to find out how serious it was. The next day felt surreal, as if I were walking through someone else's life. She acted normal. That was probably the worst part. No guilt. No nervousness. Just routine. Coffee. Shower. A quick kiss on the cheek that felt automatic rather than tender. She said she might be late again and asked what I wanted for dinner, as if nothing had changed. I said, anything, and I didn't just mean food. As soon as she left, the house became too quiet. I sat on the couch, staring at the spot where her laptop had been last night, and replayed that message over and over in my head. Last night was crazy. Not fun. Not pleasant. Crazy. You don't say that to a colleague. You don't say that to someone you don't touch. I told myself I would check just once. Just to make sure I wasn't going crazy. That lie lasted about 5 seconds. I opened her laptop again. This time I didn't hesitate. The messenger was still there. She was still logged in. As if she never imagined I would look. At the top was a pinned chat. A man's name. Not a nickname. Not work-related. Just a name I didn't recognize. I clicked on it. I wish I hadn't. But I did. The messages weren't explicit. There was no need for that. They were worse, familiar. Comfortable. Intimate in the sense that they screamed history. Jokes I had no connection to. References to places I had never been with her. Complaints about how exhausting everything is at home. Complaints about me, without mentioning my name. Just his. As if I were an obstacle, not a person. Then there were plans. Not specific dates, but hints. The same place. When he's working late. Next time I'll be better at lying. It lay on my chest like a brick. She knew she was lying. She wasn't confused. She wasn't trapped. She was conscious. My hands trembled as I scrolled through the messages. I felt detached, as if my body was doing it and my brain was watching from a distance. There were gaps, deleted parts of the conversation, but enough remained to make it undeniable. This wasn't new. This wasn't a mistake. This was a second life she had been living right under my nose. I heard the front door unlock and almost dropped my laptop. I managed to close it, my heart pounding. She came in, talking about traffic, about how someone at work was annoying her. I nodded, barely hearing her. She stopped mid-sentence and looked at me. "Why are you looking at me like that?" "How?" "Like someone who's done something wrong," she said sharply. The irony almost made me laugh. I said I was tired. She rolled her eyes and muttered something about me being dramatic again. Then she went to change, leaving her phone on the table. Carelessly. Confidently. I didn't touch it. I didn't need it anymore. That night, I lay awake listening to her breathing next to me, wondering how long she could have been doing this, sleeping next to me while giving herself to another man during the day. I wondered how many times she had looked me in the eye and lied without batting an eyelid. The anger didn't come right away. It came on top of the shock, slow and heavy. First came the grief. The realization that the version of my wife that I loved might no longer exist. Or maybe it never did. I wasn't ready to face her. Not yet. I needed to hear her lie to my face. Again. The opportunity came sooner than I expected. 2 days later, she told me she had to work late again. Same tone. Same lack of details. I nodded, said okay, and watched her pick up her purse. She leaned over and kissed me on the head, like you do with a dog you're leaving at home. The moment the door closed, my heart sank. I didn't follow her. I didn't check where she was. I just waited. She came home around 11. Quietly. Carefully. She took off her shoes at the door and froze when she saw that I was still awake, sitting on the couch with the TV off. "You scared me," she said, more annoyed than surprised. "Why are you sitting in the dark like some kind of maniac?" I shrugged. Couldn't sleep. She dropped her purse, stretched as if exhausted, then pulled herself together and added, "Work was a nightmare." There it was. The discovery. "What kind of work keeps you out so late every night?" I asked. Calmly. With curiosity. Neutrally. She clenched her jaw. "Why are you doing this?" "Doing what?" Questioning me, she replied sharply. "God, you've been so strange lately. It's exhausting." I looked at her and said, "I just asked a question." She grimaced contemptuously. "You always do that. You act calm, but you're clearly accusing me of something." "I didn't accuse you of anything," I said. "I asked where you were." Silence fell between us. She crossed her arms. I was with my colleagues. Like I told you. Like always. The lie slipped out easily. Too easily. Something inside me calmed down. A cold, steady clarity. I nodded slowly. Okay. She immediately relaxed, as if the storm had passed. The tension disappeared from her shoulders. That reaction told me more than any message could have. She went into the bedroom and changed without saying a word. A few minutes later, she climbed into bed and turned her back to me, holding her phone in her hand, the screen already lit up. I could see her typing something. Smiling slightly. I said nothing. But inside, the shock had passed. So had the denial. They were replaced not by anger, but by determination. She wasn't confused. She had no regrets. She calmly lied to my face. And if she thought I was still the same guy who would swallow it to keep the peace, she would soon find out how wrong she was. Lying in the dark, listening to her breathing, I quietly made a decision. I would no longer seek reassurance. The next step would not be emotional. It would be deliberate. As soon as I made that decision, everything changed. I stopped reacting. No more questions. No more tension. No more attempts to read her mood like tea leaves. I became quiet in a way she didn't expect, calm, observant, detached. That in itself threw her off balance. The next morning, she noticed it right away. "You're acting strange again," she said as she got ready, applying mascara to half of her eyes. "Are you mad at me or something?" I shook my head. "No." She studied my face suspiciously in the mirror. "Then what is it?" "Nothing," I said. "Just tired." She didn't like that answer. She needed arguments. When she didn't get them, she smiled contemptuously and muttered something about me being emotionally unavailable. Then she left without kissing me. This was new. Later that day, something unexpected happened, one of those moments that seem insignificant until you realize it's a crack that's widening. She forgot her charger. She came home in a hurry, annoyed, and started talking without even seeing me. "I forgot my charger, and my phone is running out of battery, and of course today is a crazy day." She stopped abruptly when she saw me in the kitchen with her phone in my hands. I wasn't peeking. I wasn't scrolling. I was just holding it, unplugged from the outlet where she had left it to charge overnight. Her face paled. "What are you doing?" she asked sharply and quickly. "You left it," I replied calmly. "I brought it to you." She rushed over and snatched it from my hands as if I were trying to steal it. "Don't touch my things," she snapped. "God, don't you have any boundaries?" I felt something cold click into place. "I was helping," I said. "No, you weren't," she snapped. "You were looking for something. Admit it." I looked at her. Really looked at her. Defensive posture. Aggression. Panic she was trying to hide behind anger. "You're projecting," she added quickly. "You've been acting paranoid for weeks." There it was again. Rewriting reality. I nodded. "Okay. That word again." "Calm. Neutral." She hesitated, as if waiting for an argument. When it didn't come, she looked confused. "Whatever," she muttered and ran out. 10 minutes later, my phone vibrated. A text message from her. "Sorry I got angry. I'm just worried. I love you." I stared at the screen for a long time. Then another message came. "Actually, you've been very distant lately. I feel like you don't want me anymore." There it was. The turning point. From apologies to accusations in 2 minutes. I didn't reply. That evening, she came home early. Too early. Almost cheerful. She made dinner, poured wine, tried to sit next to me on the couch. Her hand rested on my thigh, like a claim to rights. "You've been so quiet lately," she said softly. "Is everything okay?" I took a sip of wine. "Why, is everything okay?" She flinched. "What does that mean?" "It's just a question," I said. She narrowed her eyes. "If you're trying to accuse me of something, just say so." I met her gaze. "If there was something to accuse you of, would you tell me the truth?" The room fell silent. She laughed, too loudly, too quickly. "Wow. So now you don't trust me at all?" I didn't say anything. Her tone changed instantly. It became cold. Angry. "You know what? I'm not going to do this. You're clearly in some kind of state, and I'm not your emotional punching bag." She got up, grabbed her phone, and shut herself in the bedroom. The door slammed shut with a loud bang. A few seconds later, I heard her pacing back and forth. Then her voice, quiet, intimate, definitely not meant for me. She was talking on the phone. Something tightened in my chest, not yet anger, not yet grief. Confirmation. And as I stood there listening to the muffled sound of her quiet laughter with someone who was not her husband, I realized that it was no longer about exposing her. It was about how much I was willing to lose if I kept quiet. That night, as she slept next to me as if nothing had happened, I stopped thinking about whether I would talk to her. I started thinking about when. And what I would do if she lied again. The conversation didn't go as I had imagined. I thought there would be shouting. Tears. Some kind of dramatic explosion where everything would come out at once. Instead, it all happened quietly, on Tuesday evening, shrouded in her lies. She told me she had another late meeting. The same scenario. The same boring tone. I nodded, said nothing, and watched her leave. The moment the door closed, I sat down and waited. Not impatiently, patiently. She didn't come home until after midnight. When she returned, she didn't even try to pretend to be tired. She was full of energy again, her keys jangling too loudly, humming under her breath. She stopped when she saw me in the hallway. "Are you still awake?" she asked. "I was waiting," I said. "For what?" she asked sharply, immediately going on the defensive. "For you to tell me the truth," I replied calmly. Her face became stern. "About what?" I stepped aside and picked up her laptop from the coffee table. I opened it. I turned the screen toward her. The message was still there. She stared at it for half a second, then lunged forward and slammed the lid shut. "What the hell is wrong with you?" she shouted. "Have you been going through my things?" I nodded. "Yes." She laughed, sharply and cruelly. "Wow. So that's what you've become." "I know about him," I said. "I know about the lies. About the meetings. About the parties. I know it's been going on longer than you want to admit." For a moment, just a moment, I saw fear flash across her face. Then it was gone. She crossed her arms and tilted her head. "You're making this up." There it was. The gaslight, in full force. "I read the messages," I said. "Don't insult me." She rolled her eyes. "They're jokes. You always take everything too seriously." "You told him you'd lie better next time," I said. That stopped her. She opened her mouth, then closed it. She exhaled slowly, irritated, not guilty. "So you invaded my privacy and took phrases out of context," she said. "Congratulations. Are you cheating on me?" I asked. She didn't answer right away. Instead, she grimaced contemptuously. "Unbelievable. I asked you a question that can be answered with yes or no." She shook her head as if I were boring her. "You've been distant for months. You don't listen. You don't touch me unless I initiate it. Maybe if you paid attention to me, I wouldn't need someone else." There it was. Not a denial. An excuse. So it's yes, I said. She looked at me coldly. It didn't mean anything. Those words hit me, but not as I expected. I didn't explode. I didn't yell. Something inside me strangely quieted down. How long? I asked. She shrugged. For a while. How many lies? She smiled. Do you really want to play this game? Then I realized she wasn't sorry. She was annoyed that she had been exposed. Annoyed that the illusion had been shattered. Angry that I was no longer easy to manipulate. I didn't plan for you to find out this way, she said, now softer but still defensive. But to be honest, this marriage hasn't been perfect for a long time. I nodded. So you fixed it by cheating on me. She grimaced again. You're being dramatic. At that moment, something inside me finally broke, not loudly, not violently. Just cleanly. I said, we're done. She laughed. She actually laughed. You don't mean that. I do. Her smile faded. You're overreacting. I'm reacting appropriately, I said. I'm not going to stay married to someone who lies to my face and treats me like an inconvenience. She looked at me as if I were speaking a foreign language. You'll calm down. No, I said. You're packing your suitcase. Her expression changed from irritation to surprise to anger. You can't just kick me out, she blurted out. This is my home too. I nodded. Then I'll leave. That stopped her. I took my keys and wallet and headed for the door. Where are you going? She asked. Somewhere where I'm not lied to, I replied. As I walked out the door, she shouted after me, you'll regret this. I stopped, turned around, and said quietly, no. I regret trusting you. Then I left. And for the first time in weeks, the air outside didn't feel heavy. I didn't go far. I just drove until the adrenaline wore off and my hands stopped shaking on the steering wheel. I stopped in the parking lot of a grocery store, turned off the engine, and stared into the void. The silence was deafening. No phone calls. No accusations. No intonations. Just me and the reality I had been avoiding for weeks. Then came the shock reaction. Not explosive, but numb. As if my brain had buffered itself. I replayed the encounter over and over, half hoping it would turn out to be unreal. But it didn't. Every word she said hit where it hurt the most, not because it was loud, but because it was deliberate. It didn't mean anything. For a while. You're being dramatic. These phrases spun around in my head. About an hour later, my phone lit up. Her name. I let it ring. A minute later, a message came in. Where are you? We need to talk like adults. I almost laughed. Her audacity was impressive. Almost immediately, another message came in. You can't just run away and leave your marriage because you're insecure. There she was again, rewriting history so she could live with herself. I didn't reply. Instead, I drove to a cheap motel off the highway. Nothing special. Just a bed, a lock, and silence. The clerk didn't ask any questions. I was grateful for that. In the room, I sat on the edge of the bed, shoes still on, and looked at my phone. New messages had arrived. I said I was sorry. You're acting crazy. You're really messing things up. Answer me. Then there was a change. Please come home. We can fix this. It hit me harder than I expected. Not because I believed it, but because it reminded me how easily I gave in when she gave me hope. I didn't reply. An hour passed. Then another. The last message that night came shortly before midnight. If you don't come back tonight, don't come back at all. I stared at that sentence for a long time. It was meant to scare me. To make me panic. To make me rush back and apologize for her betrayal. Instead, I felt something like relief. I typed one reply. Just one. I'll pick up my things tomorrow. The message bubble appeared instantly. Then it disappeared. Then it reappeared. There was no reply. I lay in bed fully clothed and stared at the ceiling until exhaustion finally pulled me down. The next morning, I woke up with a headache and a strange sense of clarity. No fear. No confusion. Just a heavy, persistent sadness and a growing realization that the life I thought was mine was over. What I was dealing with now wasn't heartbreak. It was the aftermath. And I had a feeling she wasn't done trying to control the situation. The next day at noon, I returned to the house. I didn't tell her when I was coming. I didn't ask if she would be there. I just pulled into the driveway and sat in the car for a minute, staring at the front door as if it belonged to someone else now. She was home. I knew it before I even went inside. Her car was parked there, crooked, as if she didn't care how it looked. When I unlocked the door, she was already waiting in the living room, her arms crossed and her jaw clenched. Not sad. Not apologetic. Defensive. "So you decided to come back," she said. "I came for my things," I replied. She laughed softly. "Unbelievable. You really think you can just walk away from this?" "I already have," I said. That made her angry. "Oh, please," she snapped. "You act like I ruined your life. You don't even know the whole story." "I know enough," I said, walking past her into the bedroom. She followed me, her heels clicking quickly, angry. "You violated my privacy. You humiliated me. You can't play the victim here." I opened the drawer and started pulling out clothes. Simple movements. Mechanical. I didn't look at her. "You betrayed me," I said. "Everything after that was just noise." She sneered contemptuously. "It wasn't betrayal. It was emotional support. Something you stopped giving me." I finally turned and looked at her. "Don't rewrite it," I said quietly. "You slept with someone else. And you lied about it." Her face hardened. "You have no idea what you've put me through." I almost laughed again. Almost. She leaned against the doorframe, watching me pack my things, as if she couldn't believe I was doing it. "So you're just going to throw away 9 years because you're hurt?" "Yes," I said. "I'm hurt. And I'm done." She narrowed her eyes. "You'll come crawling back." I zipped up my bag. "No." She moved closer, lowering her voice. "You're not perfect. You pushed me away. You made me lonely. It's partly your fault." I picked up my bag and walked past her. Then she changed tactics. Her voice trembled, just enough to sound sincere. "I told you I'm sorry." I stopped at the door. "No," I said. "You said it didn't mean anything. You said I was being dramatic. You said it was my fault. That's not an apology." She looked at me as if she didn't recognize me. Maybe she didn't. The guy who seemed unsure of himself, who doubted himself, who accepted blame, that guy was gone. At the door, she said, "If you leave now, it's over between us." I turned around. "It was over between us before I found out," I said. "I just finally realized it." I walked out without saying a word. In the car, my hands shook for a minute before I could turn the key. Then I was overcome with anger, late, hot, all-consuming. Not just at her, but at myself. For not noticing the signs. For allowing myself to be persuaded to abandon my instincts. I drove away knowing this wasn't the end. It was just the moment when she realized she was no longer in control of how this story unfolded. The days after I left blurred into one surreal feeling. At first, I slept on a friend's couch. He didn't ask questions, just handed me beer and let the silence speak for itself. I appreciated that more than any advice. My phone lay face down most of the time, but when I checked it, there were messages. Always from her. Always oscillating between rage and need. 1 hour she was accusing me of abandoning her. The next, she begged me to come home and talk like adults. Then she changed her mood again, calling me weak, saying I would never survive on my own, reminding me how much my life depended on her. It was like watching someone drown, trying to pull me down with them. I stopped responding altogether. That didn't stop her escalation. 3 days after I left, she showed up at my workplace. I saw her through the glass wall before she saw me. Perfect hair. Perfect makeup. The version of her that was meant for public consumption. The one that people believed. She walked up to the reception desk and said my name as if she owned it. When I came out, she smiled. Too brightly. Can we talk? Not here, I said flatly. She laughed as if I were joking. Don't be like that. I'm at work, I said. Go. Her smile faded. Wow. You really think you're better than me now? I leaned in to speak quietly. You better leave before this gets embarrassing for you. It worked. She raised her voice. You can't push me away after everything I've done for you. Everyone turned around. My stomach churned, but I kept my expression neutral. Calm. Restrained. Security will escort you out if you don't leave, I said. She looked at me, first stunned, then angry. You're unbelievable, she hissed. You know what? Fine. Run away. But don't pretend you're some kind of innocent victim. You drove me to this. She stormed out, her heels clicking loudly, leaving behind a room filled with awkward silence. I stood there for a minute, my heart pounding, and then returned to my desk as if nothing had happened. My hands were still shaking, but something else had settled in me. She was losing control. That night, I finally did what I should have done earlier. I called a lawyer. Not dramatically. Not for revenge. Just practically. Necessarily. I laid out the basic facts: length of marriage, assets, no children, infidelity. The lawyer listened, asked questions, and gave me facts. Real facts. Not emotional ones. When I hung up the phone, I felt heavier, but more stable. Later, alone in the dark, the full force of sadness finally hit me. Not just because of the loss of her, but because of the loss of the future I thought we were building. The trips we talked about. The names of the children we argued about. The life that now seemed to belong to another version of me. That night, I allowed myself to feel it. The anger. The grief. The humiliation. But underneath it all was something new. Resolve. She lied. She betrayed me. And now she was trying to punish me for not taking it lying down. That wasn't going to happen. Not anymore. The papers made it real in a way that emotions couldn't. After talking to the lawyer, the situation stopped being a blurry nightmare and started turning into a process. Dates. Documents. Bills. Decisions. Cold, boring details that didn't care how much it hurt. I went back to the house one more time while she was at work. I warned her with a text message, not out of politeness, but to avoid a scene. She didn't reply. That was fine. Walking around this place was surreal. Our place. The sofa we chose together. The photos still hanging on the wall, frozen in time, like evidence of a past life. I didn't linger. I packed what was important. Clothes. Personal items. Things I had paid for. I left the wedding photos exactly where they were. I wasn't ready to decide what to do with them yet. When I was halfway through packing, my phone vibrated. It was her. "You'd better not take things that don't belong to you." I looked at the message, then turned the phone face down and continued packing. She came home earlier than I expected. The door slammed. I heard her heels before I saw her. "So now you're just robbing me," she snapped, bursting into the bedroom. "I told you I'd be here," I replied calmly. "I'm taking my things." She laughed bitterly. "Do you really think that everything in this house doesn't belong half to me?" "Talk to a lawyer," I said. "I will." That wiped the smile off her face. "You've already hired a lawyer?" she asked, narrowing her eyes. "Wow. I guess you planned all this in advance." I zipped up my bag. "You betrayed me. I planned my departure." She sneered contemptuously. "You act like you're the only one who has the right to be offended." "I didn't betray you," I said. She raised her voice. "You left me." I finally exploded, not loudly, not dramatically. "Just enough. I left because you lied to my face and then blamed me for it," I said. "These are the consequences. Not betrayal." She looked at me, her chest rising and falling. For a moment, I thought she might cry. Instead, she smiled. Coldly. Maliciously. "You'll regret this," she said. "I'm not going to make it easy for you." "I don't expect it to be," I replied. This seemed to surprise her. She was used to threats working. Used to me backing down. I walked past her with my bag. At the door, she said, "By the way, he's better than you." That got to me. Not because I believed it, but because she wanted to hurt me. I turned and looked at her one last time. "If he were better," I said, "you wouldn't have to lie." Her face contorted with anger. I left without waiting for a response. Outside, the air felt lighter again. Not good. Not yet. But lighter. I drove away, knowing the war wasn't over. But for the first time, I wasn't afraid of how ugly it might get. I was ready. The revenge began quietly. At first, it was small things. My banking app sent a notification that one of our joint accounts had been depleted to its minimum balance. Not emptied, just enough to hurt. Enough to send a notification. When I checked, there was a transfer marked "Household Expenses." Vague. Unprovable. Petty. Then my credit card was declined at the gas station. I stood there staring at the terminal like an idiot while the cashier waited. I checked the app, the card was blocked. Not cancelled. Blocked. I felt the familiar warmth rising up my neck. I knew exactly who had done this. I called the bank from my car and had everything sorted out in 10 minutes. Separate accounts. New passwords. Added verbal notes. The woman on the phone spoke softly, as if she had done this 1,000 times before. That scared me more than anything else. When I checked my phone later, there were missed calls. Voice messages. In the first one, her voice was calm. Even sweet. "I just wanted to make sure you were okay. You didn't answer. Call me." The second voice message was colder. "You shouldn't mess with the accounts without talking to me." The third was pure venom. "You think you're smart. You think you can just cut me off. I'll destroy you if you keep this up." I deleted them all. Something else happened that night, sudden, sharp, unmistakable. A mutual friend texted me. "Hey, buddy. I don't want to get involved, but are you okay?" I asked why. There was a long pause. Then another message. "She's telling people you had a nervous breakdown. That you're unstable. That you scared her." My heart sank. So, this was a new twist. I sat there for a long time, holding my phone, trying to piece everything together. The scene at work. The money games. And now this. She wasn't trying to fix anything. She was trying to stay ahead of the game. I didn't reply. I didn't defend myself publicly. I sent short, calm messages to a few important people. No details. No emotions. Just the facts. We're breaking up. She cheated. I'm handling it privately. Some reacted with shock. Some with silence. One with quiet support. That was enough. 2 days later, my lawyer called. She has retained counsel, he said. She claims that you emotionally abandoned her and neglected your family responsibilities. I almost laughed. Let her, I said. There was a pause. You're taking this well. I'm taking it clearly, I replied. That night, alone in the apartment I had just started renting, I finally felt the weight of it all settle properly. Not anger. Not humiliation. But finality. She was no longer the woman I had married. Maybe she never was. And the version of her I saw now, manipulative, vengeful, wasn't the one I wanted to break up with. She had made her choice long before I found the message. All I was doing now was refusing to take responsibility for her actions. And tomorrow I would take the next step. Not out of anger. Out of self-preservation. The next step came sooner than I expected. That morning, my lawyer called and said she had filed the papers first. Not officially yet, but she had started preparing. Claims of emotional neglect. Allegations that I had been alienating myself for months. Hints that I was controlling. Nothing specific. Just enough smoke to make people close their eyes. I wasn't surprised. I had already seen her play this game in real time. What surprised me was how little it bothered me. A week ago, such accusations would have sent me into a spiral, replaying every argument, wondering what I could have done differently. Now it just sounded like noise. The predictable move of someone who couldn't accept that she wasn't the victim. I gathered everything. Messages. Dates. Screenshots. Bank statements. Timelines. I didn't dramatize. I didn't comment. I let the facts do what emotions couldn't. However, there was one moment that struck me the most. I found a draft email on her laptop. It hadn't been sent, but it had been saved. It was addressed to him. Another man. Written a few weeks before I found out. I don't know how much longer I can pretend at home. He's starting to notice. If he ever finds out, I'll pretend he pushed me away. Reading it, I felt like I was swallowing ice. She didn't just cheat. She planned the whole thing. Planned the accusations. Planned to use my confusion as a cover. That night, she called me from a number I didn't recognize. I almost didn't answer. I just want this to be civilized, she said in a soft, restrained voice. A new mask. Maybe, I replied. You don't have to destroy me, she added. We both made mistakes. No, I said calmly. We didn't. Silence. You really will do it, she finally said. It wasn't a question. Yes. Her voice grew firmer. Then I won't protect you anymore. I almost asked what that meant. Almost. But I already knew. I'm not asking you to, I said. I'm protecting myself. She hung up. I sat there, holding the phone in my hand, and realized something important. It wasn't about winning. It wasn't about humiliating her or exposing her publicly. It was about not letting her rewrite reality. She could tell any story she wanted to anyone who wanted to hear it. I didn't need to chase every lie. The truth had weight. It always did. Especially when you stop trying to convince people who don't want to hear it. For the first time since it all started, I slept through the night. No dreams. No replaying arguments. Just silence. The kind of silence that comes when you finally stop fighting the truth. The peace didn't last forever, but it changed form. A few days after that call, the documents arrived. Official. Heavy. Real. Seeing my name printed next to hers in this context was harder than I expected. Not because I wanted her back, but because it meant the end of something I had invested 10 years of my life in, believing it was solid. She no longer addressed me directly. No more phone calls. No more text messages. Now everything went through lawyers. The distance helped. It took the emotion out of the situation and left only the logistics. But the hurt lingered in small, unexpected ways. I caught myself reaching for my phone to tell her something silly, an inside joke, a complaint about traffic, and then remembering that there was no longer a her to send it to. I would stop mid-sentence in my head. That hurt more than any argument. What surprised me most was how tired I felt. Not sad. Not angry. Just exhausted. It was as if my nervous system had been running at full capacity for weeks and had finally shut down. One day, I ran into someone I hadn't spoken to since everything blew up. She hesitated, then said, "You seem different." I asked what she meant. "Calmer," she replied. "Like you're not apologizing for existing." That stuck with me. Looking back, I realized how much I had been shrinking without noticing it. How often I had suppressed my instincts to keep the peace. How easy it was for her to convince me that the problem was in my reactions, not her actions. The betrayal hurt deeply. But the clarity that came after was undeniable. I didn't miss her as much as I thought I would. I missed the version of myself that I thought I was with her. That version no longer existed, and perhaps never had. One evening, left alone in the apartment, I packed the last of the things I had brought from home. Old photographs. A few postcards. Small artifacts of a marriage that now seemed like a closed chapter. I didn't destroy them. I didn't romanticize them. I just put them away. They belonged to the past. I didn't. That week, the last message from her lawyer arrived, an attempt to resume negotiations, soften the terms, test the boundaries. I read it, forwarded it, and instructed my lawyer to deal with it. I didn't feel the need to respond. For the first time since this whole thing started, I didn't react. I was choosing. And that's when I realized that the worst thing wasn't that I found out about her betrayal. The worst thing would be to stay after I found out. That thought helped me wake up the next morning feeling lighter than I had in months. There was only one thing left. The ending wasn't the one she could give me, but the one I had to take upon myself. The ending didn't come at a dramatic moment. It came quietly, on a normal weekday morning, as I drank bad coffee in my apartment and looked out the window at the traffic I no longer needed to rush to. The divorce happened faster than I expected. No dramatic scenes in court. No last confessions. Just signatures, emails, and an official notice confirming what had long been true: it was over. She didn't contact me after that. Not to apologize. Not to express anger. Not even to gloat. I think, in her own way, she had already rewritten the ending in her head, where she was the wounded one and I was the villain. That was okay. I didn't need her approval anymore. I was surprised at how little I wanted to say to her. I had imagined some kind of final speech, something sharp, devastating, perfectly worded. Something that would make her understand. But standing there with the papers in my hands, I felt only fatigue. Not defeat. Just the end. After that, the anger slowly faded. The sadness lingered longer, but it softened. It ceased to be sharp and became painful, like a healed wound that still remembers the weather. Some nights I missed the familiar. Not her, just the idea of someone being there. But even that feeling passed when I remembered how lonely I felt lying next to her while she wrote to someone else. Acceptance wasn't dramatic either. It was waking up one morning and realizing that I wasn't thinking about what she was doing, who she was with, or whether she regretted anything. It was recognizing my own reflection again, steadier, calmer, sharper around the edges, seeming to have earned its place. Here's what I learned, whether I wanted to or not. If someone lies easily, they will lie again and again. If someone blames you for their betrayal, they never plan to take responsibility. And if your intuition keeps screaming and your partner keeps telling you that you're too sensitive, your intuition is probably the only honest thing in that room. I don't hate her. I don't wish her well either. I just don't carry her in my heart anymore. I lost a marriage built on assumptions. I gained clarity, and myself. If there's one thing I'm sure of now, it's that. Being alone hurts. But being betrayed and told it's your fault hurts even more. Leaving wasn't a weakness. It was the first honest decision I'd made for myself in a long time. If you want more stories that spark your imagination, subscribe to the channel and come back for the next chapter. There's always another tale waiting.